Welcome to the Create Your Empowered Self podcast. This how-to podcast is focused on empowering you to live your best life by incorporating the principles of the law of attraction, neuro-linguistic programming, emotional freedom technique tapping, meditation, and other spiritual teachings. I'm Jeannie Hall, author, certified NLP, EFT, TFT practitioner, and creative empowerment coach. Let's get you empowered. Hello and welcome to the Create Your Empowered Self podcast. This is episode 48, Fearless. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is author and creative empowerment coach Jeannie Hall, and today I'm going to talk to you about being fearless. And at the end of this episode, I will be sharing a guided meditation, so if you like meditations, please stick around. And if not, then you can just listen to the episode, and then when it gets to that, you can turn it off. So recently, I did a process that was created by the fabulous Margaret Lynch, and it's called your Inner Child Exercise. And I felt inspired to do this podcast episode today because of the impact that this inner child exercise had on me. And I placed all the links to Margaret's information and to my own YouTube channel in the show notes because I then went and created a video of my own take, my own version of her inner child exercise to share with my own clients, and I'm hoping it will help them as much as it helped me. And the amazing thing about this exercise is it basically takes you back to your childhood and provides you with the connection to the child and the inner spirit that you had as a child. Because many times as we live our lives, the further we get away from that, the more we forget what it's like to be a little child. And that is a time when we are naturally more connected to our spiritual selves. And the whole point of the exercise is to discover what your one special gift or quality is. And the special, unique gift that I recognized in myself as a little child when I did the exercise was that I, as a kid, wanted to be utterly fearless. And what really surprised me about that is that is very counter to the way I've lived most of my life. And so it was very interesting to see that whole idea come to life in this little child, because in the exercise you picture yourself between the ages of 4 to 6 and you go back to that time period and ask your inner child to show you what they came to this earth to be. What is their strongest, most unique, most special, most wonderful quality? What makes them amazing? And of course, that means what makes you amazing. But by putting it in a child's hands, in other words, even though it's still you, it's kind of taking it out of your own point of view and putting it in this child's point of view. And I was very shocked to see that mine was fearlessness, that mine was so different, because I'm kind of this bookish, nerdy, introverted girl. And I was very shocked to see that little child show me that she had come to this earth to be fearless. And it inspired me to stick my neck out a little more, to stand out a little more, to be willing to risk a little more, because I didn't come here to be timid. And I didn't come here to bury my face behind a book all the time, even though I think that's wonderful to read, and I'm a writer and I'm behind my computer and behind books and writing books a lot. But at the same time, Sometimes you have to get out there and brave exposure, brave that someone might not like what you say and they might disagree with you, but that's who you really are. And to really make a difference, a positive difference in this world, sometimes you have to come out as who you actually are on a fundamental spiritual level, and to honor that and to boldly say, by God, this is who I am, and whether you accept it or not, it doesn't matter. I accept it, and I'm not going to hide anymore. I'm not going to hide who I am anymore. So that was very powerful for me. And my last show, which was podcast 47, Spiritual, What It Is and What It Isn't, I basically discussed how spiritual people like myself actually live and how we try. Part of being spiritual is being true to your real self and being authentic in every sense of the word. And part of that, of course, is not hiding who you are, not pretending to be something else. And I spent much of my life as this kind of wallflower, doormat type of person. And that really stood out to me that that's not who I'm meant to be, and I need to stop that, basically. So part of that, part of being truly fearless, is being willing to risk that kind of dislike and judgment and fear. And it can be scary as hell, frankly, to put yourself out there. But I think to make a big difference, to be out there in the world, I'd recently joined this wonderful website called The Wellness Universe, and they call everybody on there, people who are trying to make positive change in this world, they call it a WU, World Changer, or WOO, World Changer. And I consider that an honor to be invited to be a part of that. And I am thrilled to be a part of that. And part of that is putting yourself out there, sharing what you have to share, sharing your gifts, your modalities, the tools and techniques you use with your clients, your words, your podcast, your videos, all of that come out to try and help the world in whatever way I can. And of course, specifically aimed toward my clients, which are, of course, writers who are struggling with some sort of creative block, and I help them write again. So that standing and taking accountability for that is part of what I believe being truly authentic is all about. Because many of us behave differently depending on where we are. And granted, all of us have different hats that we wear. You're going to behave a little differently if you're a mother with little kids than you do if you're the boss of a multi-million-dollar corporation. You might be both of those things, but you probably don't treat those things in the same way. You don't speak to your 2-year-old the same way you're going to speak to someone at a board meeting. But at the same time, I think what we have to be careful of is that we act certain ways that maybe are not completely true to ourselves. So for example, in other words, we might act like one way with our friends and another way with our boss. And sometimes that's understandable, and depending on who the boss is and how they are with you. But sometimes it's because we are afraid to be ourselves with our employers. When actually, if we stood in our true selves a little more, we could show them what we have to add to our work and to the general goal of the company or the business or whatever it is. We might be ourselves around our immediate family, but hide parts of our personalities if we go to church or if we go to other formal occasions. And again, sometimes that's the appropriate thing to do. You may want to do it out of respect, like yelling in a library is just damn rude, for example. But sometimes it's because we're just hesitant to be who we truly are. And I want to share an incident from my own life to kind of really showcase this. And it was back when I was 18 years old and I was going to a Christian college. I graduated, got my degree from there. And I commuted every single day, which meant I was one of the few students on that campus who actually had a car. And I had volunteered to be a part of this backyard Bible school program, which was college kids helping little younger kids, like preschool age. And I participated in that my freshman year. And so, because I had a car and most of the other students that were involved in this project did not have a vehicle, I offered and volunteered to give other students a ride. And the first time I drove with one of these particular students, she noticed that I had a cassette tape sitting out on my dash that was a Bon Jovi tape with the rock band Bon Jovi. And it was the album, which is completely awesome. I still think so to this day, Slippery When Wet, which is one of my favorites of all time. And yes, I'm that old. Okay. I graduated in 95. It gives you an idea. But she turned to me in the car. She's sitting in my passenger seat, and she turns to me and goes, "Wow, Jeannie, Bon Jovi? Is that really appropriate for you to listen to?" And she said it so snarky, and her voice was just dripping in judgment. And I realized that many, maybe even most of the students that I went to college with only listened to either Christian contemporary music or church hymns. For real, a lot of them were that way. That's what they'd been born and raised, and that's all I guess they were. Some of them might have been allowed to listen to. I'm not sure on that, but a lot of kids went around listening to Christian contemporary music. And at the time, her turning on me like that in my own car with my own music, I wasn't even playing it at the time, I was really shocked by her doing this. And then I felt really embarrassed and a little bit ashamed. And part of me wanted to grab that tape and hide it in the glove compartment. I was just really embarrassed. And yet, at the same time, I knew I loved Bon Jovi because I still love Bon Jovi. I loved it then. I do now. And there's really no reason for me to have let her opinion make me feel like I was a bad or corrupt or sinful person. But I did feel that way because of what she had said. And it was only later, after the whole thing happened, that I thought about it and began to feel a little anger toward her for this interaction. Because really, when I sat back and gave myself time to contemplate and kind of rehash what had been said and how she'd behaved, my gut response then was, well, how dare she act like I wasn't a good person because I like rock music. I grew up with rock music. I went to a public school. I wasn't that sheltered, I guess. I was exposed to all sorts of music and listened to all of it, and rock music was one of my favorites. Still is. But back then, at 18, the action I took in that moment was not to confront her, and I actually did, as soon as she got out of the car, hide the tape. And I did that because I was afraid of her judging me. Even though she is no more important than I am, I'm no more important than she is. And that's something NLP teaches us a lot, that we get into trouble whenever we either put ourselves above somebody else or if we put ourselves below somebody else, because that's not how we are. We're all exactly equal. We're all on equal footing. Nobody has the right to look down on us, just like we don't have the right to look down on anyone else. We are all equal. We have different strengths and different weaknesses, but at the core, we're all equal. We're all spiritual beings who've come here into these human forms to expand all that is in the world, in the universe. So for me to feel judged by her, this girl who was my exact age, and be so embarrassed by what she said that I let humiliation take over and I hid something I loved and part of who I was from her and from the world, that just really shows that I was letting other people's opinions sway me way too much. And back then, I was in no way fearless. Now, and since that time, I worked for the public for a living, and if you've worked with the public for a living, you know there's certain things that are expected. For example, you're not going to smile and say, "Hi, how you fucking doing today?" right? You're not going to do that unless you want to get fired. So I definitely don't advise that. But there are little ways that we can become more fearless at being more of our true selves. Doesn't have to involve an F-bomb, right? For example, if you're an author or a creative person, being fearless may mean taking a deep breath and sending off your manuscript or your partial manuscript to an editor, an agent, or a publisher who's asked for it. That takes guts. Talk about fearless. Hitting send on an email like that, it is super stressful. And as someone who has done that, I remember my hand shaking as I went to hit the send button. So that takes guts and that takes determination, because you're sending out something you created that probably either no one else has seen but you, or very few have seen but you, and you're risking rejection. And so that takes being fearless to be able to do that. Or maybe if you've been blocked for a while and you haven't been able to write, maybe that entails reaching out for the guidance and the support that you need. And that can be super scary too. It may mean standing firm on an idea that you had for a story when your editor wants you to change it. Maybe you had it all written out and blocked out in a plan, and it's already written, and you send it to an editor and they hate some part of it and say, no, you have to change this. Or how about if you do this? Which, of course, working with them is one thing. But if you feel very strongly that that is an essential part of your story or of a character's plot line and part of their growth as a character, don't change it then, because it's your name on the book, not your editor's. It's your name. And that's why it's so important sometimes to stick to your guns and to say no. Not to say you don't want to work and be equitable and be willing to compromise if it's something minor, but if it's something really important to you, stand your ground and don't let someone else's opinion change your vision if it's that important to you. It may mean risking putting yourself out there when you share and market your book in a very public way on social media. That's scary for a lot of authors because many of us are introverted. Many of us, we're not marketers, we're not advertisers, we're not someone who goes out and drums up a lot of attention. So trying to do that for a book that you've written can feel very uncomfortable, and that takes being fearless too. And in general, if you're not a writer or creative, or maybe if you are, but you're hesitant to speak to strangers, or maybe when you walk on a busy street or in a mall or in a busy area with lots of people, maybe you tend to keep your eyes down or straight ahead. Maybe you never look somebody in the eye. That takes courage too, to look someone in the eye and smile at them, or just be willing to look them in the face. It may mean speaking up when you've been silent in the past and always kept your thoughts to yourself. It may mean standing up for yourself when a boss or a coworker puts you down. As a recovering doormat, I can totally speak to that one. It's scary. It's scary to stand in your truth and say, I deserve to be heard. And it takes a lot of courage and bravery to do any of those things I just mentioned. So today's Serene Saturday will end with a guided meditation intended to inspire you to be more fearless. So to follow along, please make sure you can safely give your attention to the meditation and enjoy. Let's begin. First, take a couple of deep breaths and close your eyes. Feel your body against your seat, grounded and secure. Relax each part of your body from your head down to your toes as you slowly take in a couple more breaths. Now, You look up to find yourself in the midst of a beautiful meadow. All around you is soft green grass, butterflies fluttering around, and wildflower blossoms. The air is warm and rich with the scents of honeysuckle, aster, and fresh earth. Granite mountains gleam in the distance, their solid presence surrounding the meadow, making you feel safe. It is late in the day, and as you continue your walk, the sun sinks toward the mountain's horizon, setting the sky ablaze in a vivid display of pink and orange. Your hike is leading you toward a tree, and as you approach it, you begin to comprehend its massive height. Once you reach it, you recognize it as a magnolia tree, its branches plentiful, and the bottom ones close to the ground. You suddenly feel compelled to climb this tree, and as you do, going up and up until you reach the very top, you end up being 4 stories above the ground. You feel a thrill of fear as you realize just how high you are right now. The sun has completely set now, and you're alone in the dark on the uppermost branches of this huge tree. Your heart races and your fingers clutch the smooth bark tightly. Your mouth fills with the almost bleach-like taste of panic. You wonder suddenly why you did this. You wonder if you've made a mistake. I mean, what were you thinking? You're scared of heights. You glance down, trembling, but then notice a myriad of lights floating at the base of the tree. At first, you think it must be fireflies, but then you hear voices, and they're calling out to you in encouragement. You did it! You climbed to the top! You're so strong! You're amazing! There is a crowd below, each of them holding a flickering candle. Their supportive words energize you and make you feel proud of yourself for being more fearless than you've ever been. Come back down to us, they say. You can do it. We believe in you. So, carefully, you start your descent. Each step is treacherous because you can't see in the darkness. You have to feel your way down. Step by step, your feet seek out the next lowest branch as your hands reach for safe places along the trunk to grip onto. You keep going, though, making your way back toward the ground. It feels like you've been climbing down this tree for an hour or more when your foot finally comes into contact with the ground surface. You look around, expecting to see that wonderful, encouraging crowd of people, but no one's there. For the first time, you realize you conquered your fear all on your own. You really are strong. You really did do all this by yourself. An astounding feeling of invincibility pours through your system. When you were at the top, you doubted you could do it. You were terrified, but you did it anyway. Now, you know you never have to be scared of anything that you fear ever again. Because in your heart of hearts, you know you can face any obstacle. Because now you have real evidence that you can overcome it. You can defeat it. You can be fearless because you already are. You smile at the surge of confidence you feel. You know whatever you want to accomplish, you can accomplish it. Nothing can stop you now. And you take another breath, feeling one with the universe and at absolute peace. Slowly, you begin to return to your body. You feel your back and legs pressed against your seat again. You turn your head carefully back and forward, then side to side. You wiggle your fingers and your toes. You take another deep breath, one that reaches all the way down into your belly. And then, when you are ready, you open your eyes.